Hey guys, we're having so much fun reliving the messages from our national conference last year. Do you know Christians Engage has a national conference? And this year, August 8 and 9, we're going to be in Dallas-Fort Worth at Create Church. Pastor Ryan Binkley, you might remember that he ran for president, but he's a courageous pastor in Dallas-Fort Worth. We're so thankful for Ryan being on our national advisory board. And we're going to be re-recording our On-Ramp to Civic Engagement seminar that's gone around the country in front of an audience that includes you. We would love for you to join us Friday night for prayer, worship, and inspirational messages, and then re-recording our seminar. So this episode has a couple of messages. One from Craig DeRoche, our new CEO. Family Policy Alliance is the ministry that we merged with over last summer. Christians Engage is now the church and civic engagement ministry of Family Policy Alliance, and we're so honored to have Craig DeRoche at the helm as our CEO now. Just being a father figure, a leader, a very creative leader that is really leading the social conservative movement across the country. Craig used to work at Prison Fellowship. He ran Justice Fellowship, knew the late Chuck Colson, was a former Speaker of the House in Michigan, and just has an amazing perspective on where we are in the country. So he's going to tell you about how Christians Engage fits into the whole plan and how we engage with the family policy councils around the country. The second message in this episode is from Jonathan Saenz, the president and CEO of Texas Values, our family policy council in Texas. Jonathan's going to give you a little perspective of his background, how he got started in this work, and then how we inspire Christians, Protestants, and Catholics to get involved in pro-life, pro-family, and religious liberty advocacy. You're going to be really blessed with these two good men and their perspective on Family Policy Alliance and the Family Policy Council movements. Stick around. Here at Christians Engage, we are on a quest to see every American Christian take stewardship of their life, their nation, and this generation. Can you imagine a world where every Christian in this country did three simple things? Pray, vote, and engage. And what if we did those ongoing? It would totally shift our nation. That's what we're doing here at Christians Engage. Over the last 5 years, we've built a standing army of Christians that are saying, I want to pray, vote, and engage ongoing and be leaders in my community. We're just getting started, folks. Here at Conversations with Christians Engage, join us every week as we take you in depth in interviews with government officials, ministry leaders, subject leader experts to awaken and empower you to do those three things ongoing. I'm Bunny Pounds. I'm the president and founder of Christians Engaged. I spent 16 years in political consulting working for members of Congress and other candidates before starting this ministry. And my co-host, Ben Quine, our biblical worldview expert and our vice president. Come on a journey with us every week. We're here to help you pray, vote, and engage.
Folks, I can't tell you how excited I am to be here, and I'm gonna walk you through a little bit about who I am and what I do and my role in all of this, because I've had this crazy life. My feet are a little bit sore today. My feet have been in Denver, they've been in Atlanta, and now they're in Carrollton? Is that where we are today? Carrollton, Texas. But I call myself a bit of a Forrest Gump in politics too. Did anybody see that movie, Forrest Gump? Where he seems to be in all these consequential rooms in American history and world history, but he's not the important guy in the room. That's me, okay? So, I was, we're going to talk about our 1630 project here. I was one of those people. I wanted to make a difference in our world, and I got involved in politics at a young age. But I wasn't surrounded by the type of a program that 1630 is. And so myself and the people that I was coming up with, we kind of had to make it up as we went along. We had a great time and there was a lot of success. And I got involved in other leadership training schools. I actually went through one at the Michigan Political Leadership Program at Michigan State University in 1991, 1992. And the thing is that they would teach people how to be effective in governance. They already understood that in secular university government, that they could teach people political leadership. And I became a Speaker of the House. I was 21 at the time. By the time I was 33, a mayor of Detroit, a tribal chairman of the Sioux tribe, and a school superintendent out of 24 students. And when I interviewed for this job, and I saw the caliber of the people that came out of that program over the last 30 years, and I saw that it produced just as many communists as it did Christians, and just as many horrifying public policy experiments as good ones that complemented the family, I thought, there's got to be a better way to do this. And then I told you I had the privilege of serving as a Speaker of the House. I actually got to be a minority leader too. I don't recommend that to anybody in the room. That's not the funnest job in politics, despite what some people might say. Speaker is a lot more fun. Go for that one. It's the right thing to do. And that's really what we're talking about here. In my Forrest Gump life, I had to start with nothing. I didn't have a political base, I didn't have a name, and I didn't have any money. But I had a passion to change the world for the better, and I had a former governor place something on my heart, which was, don't ever grow so cynical as to believe that individuals don't make a difference. Every decision that has ever been made in the history of the planet has been between two people. The two most powerful people, when they sign off on the terms with each other, that's the law. And you might want to be one of those two people if you want to improve our culture, right? And I had the privilege of being one of those two people for a while in Michigan, and I got the privilege of seeing what those two people do up close, in person, for nearly 30 years now. And it should scare you, but it should also endear you to our form of government, because the competency and the quality of that decision-making is no different than your prom committee in the high school. Or even when the teacher in elementary said, do we want to do recess or do we want to do dodgeball? Think of that level of discussion, of human interaction with each other. And folks, if there aren't Christians equipped that are in that room to point with some common sense to why you're there in the first place, who gave you the power and what you're supposed to do with it, it's not just something you're supposed to have fun with your friends on. We get all these ridiculous decisions. We lose the lead on what our country is supposed to do in the first place, and we keep going backward, and we compound stupid with stupid. But what we found here in Texas, that was modeled and demonstrated with the entire crew of Christians engaged between 2018, the origin, and the 2022 election, rising to 55,000 folks. That is no small feat for an origin story of a movement. And 91.7% of those people voted. This guy standing on stage with you is hired by Chuck Colson, the architect of the 1972 campaign, the last masterpiece on the Republican side of the ledger, 49 out of 50 states. I'm personal friends with Ron Kaufman, H.W. Bush, all these other guys. I'm sitting across the table from Bunny Pounds this spring. I had never seen a better mousetrap than what you all, many of you in this room, developed in Christians Engaged. And literally the first thing I was thinking was, I wish my old mentor, Chuck Colson, was alive so I could call him right now and tell him what you all have. Folks, in 1972 or 68, when he was doing this for Nixon, it would have blew him away. I'm friends with James Carville, too. It would have blown him away. I'm serious. This is a better mousetrap. Folks, it turns out that Christians are the same as every other human being. It says that in the Bible, actually, but sometimes we don't think that, right? Maybe we think we're a little bit better, just a little bit better than the rest of the population. It turns out we're not. We're just as lazy. We're just as entitled. We're just as ungrateful. My kids, I got 3 girls, 3 daughters. They're beautiful, they're talented, they're smart, but man, one of them wouldn't fill up her gas tank. It took me a year and a half to figure that out, that she was always timing it to when I was home to get gas. She was intimidated. No, it wasn't the money. It was not the money, please. She didn't know how to she didn't like filling up the car with gas. I had another daughter with the bank. She didn't like the ATM machine. Bunny is talking to me about getting Christians to vote, to a guy I was 6'5" and had a full head of hair when I got elected speaker. This is how long I've been in this game, working on trying to do what you all are doing at Christians Engage, and it's working. Because after I talked to Bunny and I said, this is magical. I've been looking for this. Chuck Colson, James Carville, he was the architect of the Clinton campaign. All these people that build these enterprises that get Americans to participate in what they own. I've been trying for 250 years nearly now. And this meets people right where they are with the technology that we have right now. And it allows us to equip people, and it allows us to remind people what this is. We're not talking about politics anymore. We're talking about ownership, right? We're talking about stewardship at this point. And that's the difference of what got left behind in so much on our side of the aisle. This is all going to go just fine, isn't it? After, I don't know, the Cold War ended or something, and everybody said, well, I don't need to participate in that anymore. What could possibly go wrong if I'm not involved in what they're teaching my kids? Nothing can go wrong there, right? And we checked out and we started acting like the rest of the culture at the same time that the left, they're not, hey, listen, man, I'm a Speaker of the House of Michigan. Every single thing the left does gets put into a system to artificially inflate turnout for the people that are the beneficiaries of that program, are programmed and paid to vote too. So all that's happened in the last 30 or 40 years is they've artificially got 10 or 20 more million people to artificially vote that wouldn't, but they've been convinced their job and their graft is on the line, so they do. And we desperately need to convict Christians with, you know that story, whether your Bible says the talents or the bags of gold. Remember that one? Yeah. We got 3 people. Someone's going to get 1 bag, someone's going to get 5, someone's going to get 10, right? What are you going to do with it? I did 10, I got 10. Congratulations. Go and run 10 cities. I did 5. I buried my bag. You wicked what? You wicked slave. Go away. Give your money to other people. I'm not going to trust you with anything. If you're a Christian and you're a citizen in America, you own the country entirely. It's not leveraged against something else. There's no other owner of it. You own it. The same with the state of Texas if you live here, or Louisiana, or wherever you're from, Michigan. You own that entirely. There's not another owner. It's you. The city that you live in, the school district. God gave you those bags of gold, those talents. What did you do with it when we die? It turns out in the cities and the school districts that are actually the form of government that affects our families the most, it's about a 15% turnout. 15%, 85% of Christians don't participate. Folks, if we come together right now, why we're here today in Carrollton, why I'm on stage, why we did this merger, why we're desperately trying to get you to share now, to get off of your couch if you're at home, to post this on Facebook. We're not asking you to take a leap into politics. We're not asking you to take a position on an issue. We're trying to ask you to declare the truth, that you own all of the things that we've been complaining about are actually our thing. It's our car in the driveway. You can complain about how dirty it is, or you can go out, grab a hose and clean it up, right? That's what Christians Engage is about. Rolling up our sleeves, joining with each other, recognizing that voting can be intimidating, not judging each other or screaming at each other so loud people can't think straight. And saying what the answer, you know what the right answer is? It isn't, how do I know how much smarter I am than you? If I go back to my Bible, though, and I'm honest before I vote, what am I supposed to do? Anybody in the room? Or is that tomorrow we teach them? Pray. We pray, right? And then we do what? Then we vote, right? And then we try to engage. Right? And there's an order for that for a reason, right? Because as a Christian and as a citizen, so much of what I think is wrong, let me just say it this way, so much of what was wrong with me before I met Jesus was it was so much easier for me to tell other people how to change and improve their own life rather than work on my own life. And I think that is what Christendom is suffering for more than anything in America right now. We're taking comfort in the fact that our observance of our Christianity and our participation in it is superior to yours. But folks, it's not. We're all in this soup together. We all got to be helping each other out. And the truth of the matter is we can't possibly all be voting in 4 elections every year, even in this room in Carrollton, because it would be all over the news, all over earth if we were. The only people that vote that way are that silly precinct in New Hampshire at midnight because they like being on the news. And they have 100% voting because they're incentivized to be on the news. I want you to be incentivized to tell all your friends to vote with whatever they're going to vote for, just if they pray first and then they vote and they engage. And I want you to invite in Jesus, because that's all you're doing right there, and see the transformation we have in America. It's going to be a hot knife through butter. These issues that have confounded us for generations will melt away, because we'll be inviting the people that have lived the solutions in Jesus and in Christ and their own families into the policy-making decisions again. That's the origin of the American idea. That's the experiment in the first place. And by having this conference today, it's what we start going back to. So, folks, I want you to know that I think we're at the beginning of something that is more than just a sense of victory or a tide that's rising. I want you also to know that I come with a sense of history. And in my Forrest Gump life, I will tell you grandiose things too. In 2015, I was asked to keynote at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference 50-year Voting Rights Act celebration. Martin Luther King's organization. Most people haven't heard of the organization, they heard of him. But it was an organization just like Family Policy Alliance. It was a national aggregator for the civil rights movement. And it was because Chuck Colson and I had such a strident support for when people repay their debt, they should be allowed to vote. I don't care if you agree with me or not. I'm just saying that's something I strongly believe. If I pay off my debt on my house, my mortgage, my credit rating should go up, not down. So if I pay off my debt, my felony, I should vote again. You know, I've earned my citizenship, right? And they took note of that, and they said, we need a Republican to come and speak, and a Christian that has that. And the guy that got up and he spoke, he came out with a cane, and he was hunched over, and he said, when I marched across the bridge the first time, they broke my jaw, and they broke my ribs. But I got off easy. Other people died that night. But the second time we walked across the bridge, we got a different result. And it was because people like, and I was standing right over there, he says, this white, rich, suburban, Republican-looking dude, and everybody starts laughing in the audience, marched across with us. Now, he was too young to march across with us, folks, but I want you to know why he's here tonight. Changed my life, and it's why I'm here tonight. He said, Martin and I, our strategy of what we were doing, we weren't asking for a pay raise for the sanitation workers. We weren't asking for retirement benefits. We were asking for people to call to question whether or not we were human beings. And if I'm a human being, I have a right to vote. And if I'm not a human being, well, you're going to have to start saying that out loud. Because voting rights doesn't end racism anywhere. But if I'm a human being, that's the beginning of the end of racism everywhere. And that's why we did it. Craig, as you can imagine, I didn't speak very well that night. I had had an education that was unavailable to me in the history books, right? Because it came from somebody that's already seen the other side, but someone's where we are, whose heart was broken for life. And dignity of every human being created in the image of God being disregarded in mass in our culture. Being dehumanized through public policy at the state and the federal and at the local level. And realizing that our country, even though we said that life comes from God, not from government, that we've come up short every day since Thomas Jefferson wrote that. We said that black people weren't a human being. You know, for 70 years. And black men became human beings before women became human beings in America. It took 20 more years before we said women were human beings. And now we're trying to say that we're not sure if you're a human being before you're born. But folks, God knows that it's the same debate, whatever it is. And God put an anointing on our country when he set us apart in words, if not in deeds. And that long arc of trajectory toward bending toward justice that we're a part of, you are the continuing participants in that. The baton has been passed to the people that are in this room and throughout the rooms in America right now. And that is no small thing. I am asking you right now to participate in the growth of our effort as Christians. This is not a fundraising night, but I want to orient you to the hour that we're in right now in our nation's history. Folks, there's a word that is given to the people that do not participate in the revolutions when they occur. Do you know what they're called? Anybody want to offer me a suggestion? What do you call somebody who doesn't participate when their country is going through a revolution? The victims. And the Christians have been the victims too many times in too many cultures, and there's absolutely no way that God has that in design for us here. Everything is going backward in America. Our life expectancy, our marriage, our production of replacing ourselves to do this, everything is going backwards. And in Jesus, we have the answer for everything, for addiction, for suicide, for mental health, for everything in Jesus. And we're taking the field. And with the power of this that you guys have created here, folks, Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris in the NFL, and every newspaper and media organization, the entire planet, advertised that. Vote.com got 500,000 people engaged in the election. Taylor Swift, the NFL, and the entire global media. And I'm telling you, the Christians Engaged team is surpassing that right now because God is with them. God, and that... we can't be set by. So I'm going to ask you, I'm the CEO of this organization, and I'm telling you the movement, and I'm telling you the hour that we're in. But I also want to temper you that this is not the end of something. 2024 is not the crescendo. This is the beginning of a durable and structural change in how Christians participate in elections. Our friends, and I have helped them, and I've done this since I was a young man, try to raise an army every 4 years. Folks, that costs hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and it is extraordinarily inefficient, and it doesn't work that well. We're learning. The left uses the government and a lot of other things, and they beat us in that way. But if we build a standing army of Christians with Christians Engaged, we will start changing America not from the top down, but from the bottom up, from the school boards and the city councils and from the kitchen tables. And I know that is going to be a fact because it's already happening all over our nation. So I want to tell you all, and I'm going to ask us just to take a pause here as you consider this right now in your hearts, your support for us. I have a sheet here, and you guys all have this in your chairs. And if you're at home right now, we have a lot of people watching this video right now. You can click on this too. This is what I wanted you to be aware of. Everything that we are getting right now, we're able to put back out into the field almost overnight. So we have a long way to go, but we're making up a lot of ground. And we've seen these last two presidential elections. We've seen so many of these Senate elections decided by quite literally thousands of votes. Something that with the family policy councils, which are 40 state organizations that employ over 400 employees and have $60 million of infrastructure. That's what FPA brings to the table for Christians Engaged. Those 400 people, $60 million of infrastructure in 40 states are taking the Christians Engaged model and they're deploying this right now. I think more than half of them, Bunny. Is it 18 or 20, Ben? 25 now, 25. That's a round of applause. 25 states, folks, that it's already been grown to. But your gift tonight, and I tell people that we all have voices in our head. And if you don't believe me, think about when you're taking a nice, long, hot shower in the morning and you say, I ought to get out. And then another voice says, well, wait a minute, we got a few more minutes. And another voice says, well, wait a second, I got to get to the hardware this morning, right? We negotiate with ourselves. So while you're thinking about the support and you're looking at this, this is truly an opportunity, an origin story for us. We want to get to as many Christians as we possibly can this year. I'd ask you to not allow the voices to talk you into the smaller numbers. The big number that came into your head, the first one that you thought of, when I said, how could you help us here? That's what we need right now. It's going better than I've ever seen in my entire adult life. And I've never talked or I asked this way. But folks, we're able to reach people to vote for less than $1 each right now. And our competitors in the political space are quite accustomed to spending more than $100 right now to reach a voter and have a conversation with them about that. And we believe it's because God's hand is on this, but we also know that God's spirit is in all of your hearts. And so we would ask you, before you donate, before you fill this out, that you would spend your time and you would pray and you would consider us today. And I believe I see some people in the back that will be coming through in a few minutes. But thank you all for filling out these donations as well. And thank you for letting me share a few minutes with you as well this evening. God bless you all.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? We're good? It's great to see y'all today. Thanks for having me a part of this event. Bunny and I have been friends for a long time, and other members of the team. And so, I got my start in this type of work for faith, family, and freedom professionally as an advocate in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. Many of y'all may know I worked with Kelly Shackelford at First Liberty Institute for many years, and then he helped me start Texas Values and serves on our board. And so I owe a lot to this community and giving me that opportunity. There are turning points we have sometime in our lives that we never forget, right? And I remember the opportunity and the driving up from the Houston area where I was practicing law at the time, and having that interview with Kelly and the team was, just something that I was so excited about. But I was taught when you get an opportunity, you don't let go of it. So when I did get that opportunity and I was offered the position, I was ready to go. But God had a lot in store. But I owe a lot to this community and people around this area for giving me that chance to do that. And I'm going to continue to serve in many ways and give back to the state of Texas, but also our country. Fifth generation Texan, so I've lived in Texas all my life. Both sides of my family are from the Texas area and the state, going back to almost when I think Texas was becoming a state, so pretty deep. So you could say I'm invested in the Lone Star State, okay? But I know that so much of the work that I do and the identity, the fabric, if you will, of our state has to do with core principles and values. So the organization I lead, Texas Values, we have three principles: faith, family, and freedom, right? We believe those have always been Texas values. If you look at the letter that Travis wrote in the Alamo, you will see these principles there. But for many years, people have been trying to take away those values from us, right? They want you to be ashamed to be a Texan, right? Now, you may not hear it as much as I do, since I live in the northwest part of Austin, and our office is literally across the street from the state capitol. But can you imagine that? Somebody from California trying to convince you that you should be ashamed to be a Texan. Good luck with that, okay? But they do. They try that. And it's not just redefining marriage, redefining so many things, trying to redefine and convince you that there's no real beginning of when life begins in the womb, trying to convince you that there's no difference between men and women, and that it's okay if women compete against men in sports, and a whole variety of issues. So I've dedicated my life to being involved in this work and really giving you an opportunity to be a voice. So a lot of the work I do primarily in my organization is focused on what happens at the state capitol, but we also get involved in local issues as well. And a phrase that I hear all the time at the Capitol is government belongs to those who show up. All right? I want to make sure you hear that. Government belongs to those who show up. All right? You're here today. You care about these issues. But we have some major things in front of us. We have a major election coming up. We have a legislative session coming up in January, right? That's why our office is across the street from the state capitol. We're the only faith, family, and freedom and pro-life organization that works on all those issues that has someone at the Capitol every day of the legislative session. That's 140 days. Sometimes it goes longer. Sometimes there's a special session, and there's more than 140 days. But that's what you have to have, because sadly, a lot of times the work we're involved in these issues, it's perception, right? There's a school board meeting. One side brings 100 people, the other side brings one. You're like, well, I guess that's kind of how this issue is, right? You can imagine in Austin, a lot of times folks that disagree with our values, there's sort of, many of them live around that area. It's easier for them to get over the Capitol. Some of our people, not as much, right? That perception can matter a lot. Considering the theme of this event and organization, pray, vote, engage, I am not a pastor, but I do know a little bit about the Bible, and that fills me up all the time in the Word. So one of my favorite scriptures passed on to me from one of my mentors, Matthew Staver, who gave me my first internship in this career, because Kelly already had his interns that time when I was in school, Shackelford. So I went to Matt Staver, and he gave me my first opportunity while I was in law school to do some of this work. And in his book, at the beginning of his book, Faith and Freedom, there's a scripture verse from Proverbs 18:17. And what it says is, he who presents his case first seems right until someone steps forth to challenge him. How many of y'all have been in that kind of circumstance where someone says something and you're like, wow, I guess that's true, no one says anything to respond and everyone's sort of wondering. I remember when I was a law student at the University of Houston, I sued my university to protect the free speech rights of the pro-life group I was leading. Any lawyers in the crowd that sued their university when they were a student? It can make it a little bit tougher for you to get that degree, okay, and that diploma. But listen, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any access to power, influence. But I went there hoping to have the skills and learn the things that I needed to learn to be an advocate. But I didn't realize I was going to be a client. I was looking to be the lawyer, right? Someone who represents someone. And here I found myself in the middle of a major lawsuit. The university was treating us different because of our pro-life groups. There was a young lady that came to one of the events, and she said to me, you don't have any reason or any rights to talk about the issue of life because you're a man. Oh, okay. College people say a lot of things, kids. And I said, okay, so let me make sure I understand. Not just me, but any man. Doesn't matter what age. No man. And I said, okay, even if they're in authority or power, no. Okay. I said, are you aware of the sex of the Supreme Court justices that decided Roe versus Wade? She was quiet. I said, they were all men. How is it that they had a right to make a decision on that issue and I don't? Right? Stopped in her tracks. Oh, that's different. You hear that? It's not. I just made my point and just left yours on the floor. But it takes that ability to be able to come back. Sometimes we're not ready for that, right? That's what we do at the Capitol. We train very hard to be ready for those circumstances. I want you to be in a position to do that as well. We have a new project, an educational program coming out called Texas Values University. It's not brick and mortar. It may be someday, but at this point, it's really an online program along the lines of what you see with On-Ramp for Civic Engagement and Rick Green with some of the series that he does through Patriot Academy. As a matter of fact, Rick Green is working with us. You're going to get religious freedom teaching from Kelly Shackelford and Hiram Sasser and myself about the Supreme Court, but also about state laws. Do you know that after the 2021 session, the government can never close a church for any reason, period, okay? So I've had the honor of every religious freedom law that's been passed the past 15 years. Myself and our organization have led that effort. We led the effort to pass the Texas Heartbeat Law and many other pro-life laws and so on. But you have to be equipped, right? We want to do that. We want to give you that information and knowledge so when someone says something like that doesn't make sense, you're prepared to respond. Or at least you can be engaged in the conversation. You can participate and have something thoughtful to say. But I make that point because Sometimes those things ring out there and you're like, wow, I'm not sure what to say as a result, and it's left other people thinking that maybe that's true. And sometimes it's designed that way, right? And we see that a lot. There's a lot of hostility sometimes making you be afraid. Gosh. I mean, we're in a church today. Is somebody going to file a lawsuit? Is the ACLU going to show up? Come and take it, I say. Bring it. I'm ready to go to court, okay? But for decades, churches have been sent letters during this time period by the Americans United for Separation Church and State, and many of those, because I've seen those letters. And what happens? The pastors get nervous and they don't say anything just to tell you there's an election. It's not true. We have a document. It's simply called Churches and Elections. I think it's part of the handout here. It's at our table. You can see the different things. There's so many freedoms that churches have, right? To have a candidate forum. I'm a part of one of them on October 15th. Prestonwood's having a huge candidate forum for Collin and Denton County candidates. Love to see y'all there. You invite everybody up, let them talk about their different views, and then go from there. The pastor can talk about what he believes, that you should look at the Bible and decide which candidates to vote for, that you absolutely should vote, and the Bible commands you to do that. But there's so much of an element of fear. And they've been working on us for a long time. And I just want to tell y'all something. One of the reasons I'm involved in this work is certainly because of Kelly Shackelford and other people that are tremendous leaders, but Jay Sekulow planted that original seed in me. Okay, when I heard his radio show, right? Everybody heard that show. It's a weekly, daily radio show. And Joe, and you know, he talks really fast, right? Jay Sekulow's just going. We need lawyers. You need to go to law school. And I heard, and I was like, I'm going. I don't know how I'm going to get there. Nobody in my family's ever been to law school. No one's got, graduate degrees in my family or whatever, but I'm going to figure it out with the Lord's guidance. But Jay Sekulow was working on a U.S. Supreme Court case, all right? And it was a very simple case in an airport having free speech rights. They were trying to take away rights and treat Christians differently. And he got to the Supreme Court and he asked a lawyer from the other side, why are y'all still fighting on this? This issue is very simple. It's already established law. And the guy told him point blank, because we and my client don't think Christians will fight back. That's the mindset. They take advantage of us so many times because we self-censor and because of our nature, right? We are loving and kind, and sometimes we turn the other cheek, but they will use that against us. So as we enter into one of the most important elections, less than 40 days away, and we get into that legislative session coming up in January, I want you to remember that. They're counting on you to be afraid and self-censor. Don't let them win. How many times does it say in the Bible to not be fearful? Be not afraid. It's one of the most common, if not one of the most phrases you'll see in all of the Bible. All right? We have an important role to play in society, in elections. All right? This is our state. This is our community. And is there anyone more powerful than a Christian that is going to be motivated and filled up by the Lord? Think about it. We believe in miracles, the God of miracles. What are we worried about with the ACLU and some of these other people? You have a responsibility with your neighbors, in your church, wherever you are. An election in my area in Cedar Park was decided by 4 votes a couple years ago. Do not think it cannot happen. All right? You have a tremendous responsibilities. We have some of the greatest freedoms we've ever had. Don't just celebrate the victories. Go out there and use the freedom. And if anybody comes at you, give me a call. We got your back. God bless y'all, and God bless Texas. All right.
Hey guys, I hope those messages from Craig and Jonathan gave you a new perspective of how Family Policy Alliance works with Christians Engaged and the local family policy councils in each state. What an amazing movement we have to engage Christians, to help them pray, vote, and engage, and then move them into places of influence within advocacy campaigns or working with churches and registering voters. We have a lot to do, guys. There is a job for each one of us, for each one of you, and we'd love to have you a part of this movement. So think of Christians Engaged as the beginning start. Take our pledge to pray, vote, engage. Join with us as we engage in advocacy for America. We need each one of you. I've said it for 5 years. America needs you. You are the answer to this country's ills, the body of Christ, the church, is the answer. If we believe that, we should put our money where our mouth is and our activism where our mouth is. It's time for all of us to get involved. Join us here at Christians Engaged in Family Policy Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us for this incredible program today. We are so happy to be in your life. Have you shared this? Have you subscribed? Have you reviewed our podcast? Please share this with other people and help us get the word out that Christians are getting empowered around this nation. Step 1 to join Christians Engage is take our pledge to pray, vote, and engage on our website at christiansengage.org. Every week, we'll teach you how to pray for government. We will send voting reminders around every election, and we'll help you engage more for America. Step 2, take one of our classes. Have you taken our On-Ramp to Civic Engagement or Biblical Worldview or the Leadership of Nehemiah or Biblical Conduct? We have so many classes, including a full campaign school that you can plug into right now on our classes page. Step 3, hey, it's time to get involved in campaigns, advocacy, registering more Christian voters, activating your church. Every Christian needs to get off the sidelines and make a difference. We are here to mentor you into your place of leadership. That's what we do every day at Christians Engage. So reach out to us for help in any of those areas. And lastly, everybody listening to me right now can help fund a movement of millions of Christians that will pray, vote, and engage ongoing. We're supported by people just like you that every month or every year invest in this ministry, their hard-earned dollars, their treasure, their heart. We thank you so much. Please be a part and give at christiansengage.org. Thank you so much to our partners at The Stream. Thanks for sharing this podcast every week. We so appreciate you. Also, Edify app with Christian Post. Thank you for having us part of your podcast ministries. Christians Engage is a ministry of Family Policy Alliance Foundation, and together around the country, we are mobilizing Christians to pray, vote, and engage. We love you. We'll see you back next week.